The last time we tested the offline experience, there was a beta update that fixed the broken Steam offline mode. It's been a couple of months since that update released, and now it's part of the stable build. I will be going on vacation pretty soon, so I need to know if Steam offline mode actually works. Last time we tried out the offline experience, we found that turning the Wi-Fi off and Steam offline mode were pretty similar experiences. But one major flaw was that we didn't really test in extreme circumstances. Maybe a winter storm takes out your internet, or maybe you're on an airplane. And in the past, this would have been a kiss of death for Steam. But with the creation of the Steam Deck, Valve has been forced to improve the offline experience altogether, you know? There seems to be a general consensus that Steam is some form of always online DRM, but that's not entirely true. In our prior testing, we've established that you can play certain games offline. There's a surprising number of games on Steam that use Steam as its main form of DRM, and if you actually own those games, you won't need to do a thing. Of course, you won't know which games use Steam as its main form of DRM. Not until you look it up. So if you're worried that a game you own may still have Denuvo built into it, then I would suggest doing some research of your own. And also, yeah, you could use your phone's hotspot to have Wi-Fi every now and then. But who the hell wants to do that? I certainly don't want to do that. And if you're on a plane, this is a non-option. Metal Jesus Rocks put out a great video on using the Steam Deck on an airplane, or rather, the issues you may encounter. Of course, his main issue is games that have a lot of DRM. You know, games with always online DRM. Like, it's one thing if a multiplayer only game doesn't work while offline, but it's another thing entirely when a single player game doesn't work because you're offline as well. That's the magic of DRM, baby. Basically, if you want to play a single player game offline, sometimes it won't work offline. And yes, while there are a multitude of games you could be playing instead of these always online single player games, the fact of the matter is some people want to play those. Thankfully, there are some fixes. We have a game that to this day still has Denuvo built in even after all of these years. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Typically, a lot of games that have Denuvo from launch end up getting Denuvo removed, not out of altruism of course, but because they don't want to keep paying Denuvo money. But it seems Konami hasn't jumped on this bandwagon. Who knows, maybe Konami doesn't give a fuck. I don't know, but I would like to not worry about DRM. So there's a fix for that. Being that I am in fact a YouTuber, I would never ever recommend you crack or pirate a game. I also would never endorse it either. Just keep in mind that I do in fact own this game on Steam, legitimately. So there you go. Keep this in mind that I've actually yet to launch Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain online. And so typically Denuvo would stop me from playing this game at all. But you know, with a few fixes here and there applied, this is no longer the case. Also, do me a solid and don't ask me for a link to this, because I'll know that you didn't watch my entire video, and I won't be happy. So yes, we applied a quote-unquote fix to games with DRM. And we've also showcased 3 games that don't have any other form of DRM built in besides, Steam itself. Obviously they work, but Steam hasn't been offline for long enough. So here's my plan. My plan is to have my Steam Deck be offline for a couple of days. 2 days without Wi-Fi, and 2 days in quote-unquote offline mode, and I'll report my experience as I go. Last night I totally turned off my Steam Deck. Of course, the Wi-Fi was still off. Fortunately, I was still able to access all of my games. Most of the games I had installed I had no issue launching whatsoever. That said, I did play one entire game to completion. Azure Striker Gunvolt 3. I played the game from beginning to end, though obviously I didn't 100% it. There's still plenty of secret missions I can still do. So there's that, I played a game from beginning to end. And yes, you can unlock achievements offline. As you can see here, every achievement I earned offline. Of course, one major con is that you can't really see what achievements you have left to unlock. I do think Valve can store all of that information locally, So it took me about 10 hours to beat this game. Of course, after I concluded this entire thing, I reconnected to the internet, and lo and behold, my game time is only about 2 minutes. Not bad for a speedrun, but it's pretty bad if you actually want to keep track of how long you actually played for. And for those of you wondering, yes, it says 2 minutes, but it still reports to Steam that you played 10 hours. It just doesn't show on here for some reason. For the purposes of refunds, Steam still recognizes how long you've played offline for. But for whatever reason, it doesn't show in this playtime right here, which really baffles me as well. Of course, for the purposes of achievements, it still records what time you unlock said achievements. And of course, as you can see here, I unlocked a lot of these achievements at night. So yeah, you can game while your Wi-Fi is off. So my conclusion is really simple. If you forget to go into offline mode, you can still game. At least that's my experience. But do keep in mind that if you want to go into offline mode directly, you have to connect to Wi-Fi first, which is kind of stupid, but that's just the way things are. So without further ado, let's talk about going into offline mode for 2 days. This is Halo, the Master Chief Collection. Just playing a little bit of Halo CE with some skulls on. When you first boot up Halo CE, the game will prompt you to log on to your Microsoft account. This is one of those games where you really should boot it up online first before you try to take it offline. It is worth mentioning that Halo the Master Chief Collection doesn't automatically download all the Halo games at once. You will have to launch the game and then go into the settings, and then choose which Halo games you want to be installed. So if you want all the Halos with you, you will have to download and install MCC, then go into MCC, go into settings, and have MCC install all the components. Every Halo, the campaign and multiplayer as well. Aside from all of the Halo shenanigans, let's talk about day 3 and 4. How is playing offline day 3 and 4? Well, it's pretty neat. That said, like I mentioned, you do have to be connected to Wi-Fi first before you can go into offline mode. Can't say I'm a huge fan of this approach, but I guess that's life for you. That said, Steam does have an airplane mode, but I feel like that should automatically put you in offline mode as well, you know? Having played with the Steam Deck offline for a number of days, it really makes me question some of Valve's design choices, you know? There's a number of seriously questionable design choices that stem from Steam being ancient at this point. The furthest evidence I could find of Steam offline mode existing was all the way back in 2004. Offline mode is an ancient system designed several years ago that only recently got a number of fixes in the desktop side of things. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Steam Deck. Heck, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for gaming laptops either. Valve really ought to find a way to make offline mode enabled by default when you disable Wi-Fi or when you're not connected to the internet. And you know, by extension, have Steam offline mode enable itself automatically when you go into airplane mode. I find it super annoying that you have to enable offline mode by first being online. How does that make any fucking sense? They also seriously need to fix that playtime issue. Overall though, the offline experience is pretty good, but it needs some serious quality of life improvements. Namely the ability to go in offline mode without being connected to Wi-Fi at all. There's also the little matter of games having always online DRM. Always online DRM shouldn't be a thing for portable devices like this. Of course, what about non-Steam games? How are they affected? Well, it greatly depends on what you're trying to play. If you're launching from a specific publisher's launcher, like you know, Ubisoft Connect or EA Origin, I would highly suggest doing the research yourself. But it's to my understanding that EA Origin and Ubisoft Connect actually have offline modes. But that's if you install the standalone launchers, like you know, through Lutris or something like that. Can't really guarantee your Steam copies of Ubisoft or EA games will act the same way. But what about Epic and GOG titles? Well, I'm glad you asked. Recently, I covered the Heroic Games launcher in a prior video. I didn't really talk about the offline experience, but all I can really say is that it works. Like, I'm not really sure how else to describe it besides the fact that it just works. You know, that Metal Jesus Rocks video that I mentioned earlier, he seemed to have issues with Heroic Games launcher in offline mode, so I made sure to test it out. And to my surprise, it seems like things just kind of worked. With GOG, it's kind of understandable because GOG's main business is DRM-free copies of games. With Epic Games though, well, just like Steam, it really depends on what games you're playing. Like on the Epic Games Store, there's a lot of games that don't have DRM. Kind of similar to Steam, really. And of course, there's a ton that use Denuvo and stuff. Ultimately, you'll want to see if your game has DRM built into it, and that requires doing your own research. If you like this video, you should check out the rest of my channel. And if you like the rest of my channel, you should like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon. When you click on the bell icon, you're ensuring that you'll be one of the first to watch my new video when it releases. And for more high-tech lowlife, check out our Discord server. Links always in the description.